I've seen too many people like waiting. When, God, are you going to use me, God? And I think, today. What's wrong with today? You know, what's wrong with using you, like taking care of your children at home, taking care of your husband, going to work, making the company better, you know, giving your best to your neighbor. That is purpose right there. That is value. And I believe that's what God, especially when you do it to the glory of God. You know, I think about the Apostle Paul and how he was the pedigree of all pedigrees of the religious leaders. He was the smartest. He was the, you know, he had been there. And can you imagine, he felt like, this is my purpose. This is what I've accomplished, until he met Jesus. And he had the moment, you know, the Damascus moment with Jesus. And then you think about how he began to live his life. Totally different. You know, he was here, but he said, I just want to be like Christ. And that's why I believe sometimes his purpose was so integrated with Christ that he could be in prison and write these beautiful letters. He could be shipwrecked. He could go through all these hard, difficult things, but yet his perspective and his attitude was still giving hope and life. And I think that's so incredible. I mean, you have to think about when we tie our purpose to Christ, that is the key. Then the things that we go through, the hardships we go through, we can still give out to others. I think sometimes people say, well, I can't do anything for Christ because I'm going through this difficult time. I'm going through this divorce. How can I help anybody else? Right now, I just need help. But when you tie yourself to Christ, he can bring about all these other great things, just like the podcast. You're doing something helpful and good, but there's other things around you, you know, so that's what I thought about that. How can we really tie ourselves into Christ in such a way that our purpose can come out in everything we do, whether it's good times or bad times?
And little times, right? The little times. That's the thing, is I always thought it would be the big times, and it's the little times where your soul is just, and the thing I want to share too is I found that it's often not immediate, right? Like I think of the podcast or the grocery store. Like a lot of times when you see someone and you know they have felt unseen for a long time and you see them. Like I've had this happen in my life, or you plant a seed, right? With a family, I have 5 families. Most of them do not believe. And I have planted seeds that I felt like fell on deaf ears. And a decade later, I'm like, oh, that seed is sprouting. Oh, wow. Like, you know what I mean? And then that's when those moments that are free, anyone can have them in their life right now, and they just feel that sense of your soul that's just so purposeful. And you don't know right away when they're happening. You could speak faith over someone in that grocery store, and then you find out 5 years later that they decided to believe in themselves that day for the first time in a long time. You know, and that to me is what I've learned, is that I got it wrong for decades. I thought it was the big things.
I was with my brother yesterday, and he has a prison ministry, and he was just telling me the story. And he said, a few years back, I was at Calipatria, or one of the prisons, and he said, a guy was helping me load my equipment back in my truck, and he turned to him and he said, hey man, he said, I want you to know, he said that if you ever do decide to give your life to Christ, and if you ever hit rock bottom, he said, I want you to walk into that chaplain's office right over there and tell him that you've hit rock bottom, because Jesus is the one who changed my life, you know, and of course he starts crying. He's just a big teddy bear. And 3 years later, he said, I went back, and he said, this guy comes back to me and he goes, Brother CJ, he says, 3 years ago, you told me that if I ever hit rock bottom to go to the chaplain, and he said, I did that, I hit rock bottom. And he said, I went, and he said, it's changed my life, and I'm opening up with praise and worship this morning for you. You know, but it's just those little seeds. That's what we're called to do. That's what, it's not just the big aha, here's your purpose and destiny. And I feel so sorry, like for young kids that are always, what do you want to do with your life? nothing has ever went as planned in my life. I don't know about you guys. I have tried to lay out my path, but the Lord has always directed. And I think the older that you get, you look back and you see the providence of God and his hand on your life. Yes. It's those everyday things that help you. And I don't think there's anything more powerful than purpose and destiny. I don't believe you can be taken out. And only God can say that. Only God gets to tell us what success is. Only God is the one who says, you're done, come home. Because I think purpose and destiny in your everyday life is the most powerful force.
I think that's what everyone ought to understand. And I think we should, because I think we're waiting for this big moment, waiting for God to do something, you know. But I think inside of every one of us, there's something way bigger than ourselves. You know, and I think that's what people feel. Yes. They feel like there's something they should do because God is a big God on the inside of us. Yes. And he puts big things on the inside of us. Now, sometimes those things need to be developed and nurtured and cultivated. But I think when people are like, I don't know my purpose, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I think many times they're getting their eyes on other things, getting their eyes on other people and what they're doing. But I'm like you. I think that every day when we live out our very best that day, we're adding wisdom, we're adding value, we're adding experience. Yes. Because like you said, God is getting us ready for different assignments. Yes. And to use this everyday purpose will help you with your assignments, you know? And so I think that's so true because I've seen too many people like waiting. When, God, are you going to use me, God? Yeah. And I think, today. Yeah. What's wrong with today? Yeah. You know, what's wrong with using you like taking care of your children at home, taking care of your husband, going to work, making the company better, you know, giving your best to your neighbor. Yeah. That is purpose right there. That is value. And I believe that's what God, especially when you do it to the glory of God, you know, because sometimes you don't feel like, you know, being nice to this person, but you know what? That means you do it to the glory of God. Yeah. You're like, I'm doing it because I know this pleases God. And he said he made us for his good pleasure. Yes. You know, and so you have to, sometimes you have to go, you know what, I'm doing this for God. I'm doing this because he would want me to. You know, so I love that whole idea of understanding your purpose is lived out every single day to the glory of God.
At TBN, our mission is to use every available means to reach as many individuals and families as possible with the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ.
Thank you for helping make the gospel of grace go around the world.
And it's because of you that partner with us that this ministry continues. God bless you.